Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Resilient Show. I am really excited about today's guest, Kyle Morgan. If you guys don't know Kyle Morgan, he is a former U.S. Special Operator from the United States Army. I'm going to read his bio for those who don't know him to get a better glimpse into who Kyle is, because we are in for definitely in for a treat today, especially because we're going to talk about some things that, as Kyle and I are, talking, getting to know each other, we very like-minded and come from similar backgrounds, but our paths, our journey, and what we believe to, our purpose is through a walk in our faith is very similar. So I really want to get into the walk of our faith together, but want to touch on some of the military stuff first. So his bio is Kyle Morgan is the CEO and chief instructor at Blu Bearing Solutions, and has an extensive background in elite U.S. Special Operations, where he led cross-functional teams and made critical decisions under extreme pressure. His military career began as an infantryman in 2002, and he later became a Special Forces Green Beret. For over a decade, he served in the Army's Special Mission Unit, specializing in hostage rescue. Morgan's leadership and commitment to excellence was tested during the deployment as a Special Operations Advisor to the U.S. Embassy in Mali, where he led a small team to respond to a terrorist attack at the Radisson Blu Hotel in Bamako in 2015, saving lives in a high-stress environment. During his military experience, Morgan founded Blu Bearing Solutions to promote the protector mindset and provide specialized firearms instruction and tactics to law enforcement and other individuals around our nation. Kyle, super pumped to have you on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here, and I'm glad that we could make this happen in between training events. But I'm really looking forward to this and continuing to get to know you too, because this is, we have a mutual friend that connected us, and
Tom Spooner.
Yep, Tom Spooner.
Tom's amazing, man.
Yep, he's a hero's hero, and sure, because of combat actions and all of that, But it's what he's done, how he was able to maintain his sobriety throughout that, and then to come out of that and recover from all the injuries he obtained or sustained, and then to build this servant leadership. He's the type of man that pours into every person that he encounters, and he's my personal mentor, professional, spiritual. In this walk in my recovery with sobriety as well.
Yeah, and speaking of sobriety, he runs it's just a phenomenal organization called Warrior's Heart.
Yeah.
Which in Mighty Oaks we don't do that inpatient treatment for people dealing with recovery, and so that's the place where Tom's place is exactly where I'd send anybody struggling with that.
Yeah, and if you're unfamiliar with Warrior's Heart, it's an inpatient residential treatment facility. They also have intensive outpatient programs, sober living. They have canine placement. But we went down there with the team to introduce the team to Tom and to see the facilities down in Bandera, or up in Bandera, or down. I don't know where we are right now.
Yeah.
but
it's
from
west,
North Carolina.
it's west of us. It's down. Yeah.
So that's where he broke ground there first, and now they have two facilities. There's one up in Virginia as well. But one thing I'll say about that place is you can't really tell the providers from the people going through the treatment, the difference between, besides a badge, like around their neck.
Yeah.
Like it's warriors healing warriors. And as soon as you step out into the campus there, there's this feeling of healing, and mm-hmm. I personally haven't been to that treatment center, but I have done a lot of different treatments, and we'll get into that. But I definitely believe, and it's for active duty, military, first responders, law enforcement, alike, and it's a phenomenal treatment center. And to be honest, after getting out, focusing so much on law enforcement training as it pertains to active shooter response training. That's our vertical as a company.
Yeah.
I walked around, interacting with our nation's law enforcement. It's reinvigorated my sense and pride in this country. And being able to do it like this weekend, where there's law enforcement with private citizens as well. We do some open enrollments. it's allowing law enforcement to see the private citizens in maybe a new light, because they can become jaded because they never get called to deal with somebody that's having a great day,
Right.
So they become they can become jaded as any of us. So they get to see how capable some private citizens and that want to be more prepared and to embody being a protector, and then vice versa. So the private citizens get to see the law enforcement that isn't just an OIS that went wrong and just online, and all the things that get put out online that kind of paint law enforcement in a negative light.
Yeah.
In some ways. But as I'm sharing my testimony, every time I get to teach, I believe Blu Bearing is everything I did was for this calling, and it's a ministry, and we get to impact people, with the unique gifts that God's given us, and radiate that and be that example and shoot, move, communicate, and teach that. So we get to kind of lower people's guard a bit, the ego piece of this that's inherent in this industry of
the type
tactics,
of people that
right?
or the sheepdog kind of people, or
and it's
there's
like,
a lot of ego there.
Blessed are the peacemakers, man. I'm capable of extreme violence, but I choose peace.
Yeah.
I choose to be peaceful. And there's a difference between harmless and peaceful.
Yeah.
So
we talked about that earlier. Your definition of meekness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, and I never, that term meek, to be meek or meekness, until more recently to me, I'm like, that just seems like it's weakness to me. I think, and that's culturally, that's where we are with it, but that's not what scripture says about it. And, cause Jesus was of meek character, and its meekness is controlled and harnessed power, self-control. If you look at the fruits of the fruit of the Spirit, that's the values and the boundaries and the principles that I want to live my life for the rest of my life.
Yeah, Jesus was definitely characterized as a meek person, but he certainly wasn't weak.
No.
You see a couple of incidents in the Bible. One is, in the temple when he's flipping over
tables.
And
Yeah.
I can
relate.
Have been a weak, passive person that would have done that. And then the second was when he got rejected in his hometown for preaching, and they were going to throw him off a cliff, but he walked right through them. And I imagine a big, carpenter, Popeye forearms and calloused hands, and no one stopped him from walking through the crowd. And so it probably wasn't a passive, weak.
No. He had if you think about it, like he led with grace, but with truth, and had the ability to cast people, demons and the devil, right? And in the wilderness, what did he do? When tempted, because he was tempted 3 times, right? But what did he do? He used scripture to show us something, so we could use that, right, to combat temptation. Yeah, and that's God's word. But what he was tempted with comfort, like all of us, and
sure,
I just really appreciate, taking it back to Warrior's Heart and this mission with law enforcement and a resource to give them, right? So I've been trying to find a way, because being a special operations veteran, as you are, SOCF is Special Operations Care Fund. There's a ton of, they've helped me and my family so much. And thank you very much for all the help that you've done for me, my family, and everyone else that you're still helping, SOCF. But our focus being on law enforcement, I can't pass that resource to them unless they had a special operations experience, or a veteran. And then went to law enforcement. So I found out about Frontline Healing Foundation, which formerly was Warrior's Heart Foundation, and started helping them, with a birthday fundraiser last year. And I was able to raise on Instagram, $3,000 or $4,000 for my birthday, and then I won't say the name of the company, but a corporate company in this industry. Filled in the rest. It was a 30-day thing, and I had a goal of $10,315, which at that time, based on the report, was the average cost to get one person through treatment. So they donated the rest of that, and so fast forward to more recently, as of 2 months ago, they actually asked me if I wanted to take a board position at Frontline Healing Foundation. So I'm on the board of directors, and it's all volunteer. And I minus Jordan, she's the CEO of it. But so now I get to be intricately a part of that process. But man, I have to read general financial hardships.
Yeah.
Like, and I want to do it because it gets me outside of myself and humbles me every time I read them. And then I have to vote, because it's expensive and people trying to find money and insurance isn't covering it, even TRICARE in some cases. It's sad, but these men and women need this. Some of us need rescuing from ourselves. And I was one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the place to do it. Cause I mean, salvation is free, but sobriety is not. And, Tom told me that, and I believe it, because I wouldn't have been able to come to this clarity to surrender had I not got sober. So I've been sober for 3.5 years. And, a year after I got sober is when I asked Jesus to be my Lord and Savior. And my life has changed exponentially, and it's just continuing to grow. And, but the one word that I want to share with you and with everyone is that I've been able to access, that was maybe always there, but I couldn't see it or feel it, was peace. I'm at peace, here, and then outwardly. It doesn't mean I don't get anxious. It doesn't mean I don't get angry. But man, the highs are less high, the lows are less low, and I'm there's just peace all around me. And I want to radiate that. Like,
I think it's something that we all seek more than anything. We may not even realize that we're seeking it. And, I speak to a therapist regularly, and we came to that conclusion, like, what do you want most personally for me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want peace. I've just pushed at such a hard pace for so long. Yeah. And, I think at the end of the day, when I come home and put my feet up, I want to be able to have just a moment of peace each day. In the times that I'm still, which is not much, but when I am still, I just want to have peace.
Yeah. And man, that we were just talking about that. We just finished up some training here for Montgomery County SWAT.
Yeah, because you guys, by the way, you guys are in town for Blu Bearing doing training right now.
Yeah, and it was like a midday to evening schedule. So we just finished a 3-day hostage rescue curriculum, and they did a great job, and it was such a good experience for us as a team. But man, we always do a closeout. We highlight something from each student that we saw through those 3 days, and then we also have them share something tangible that they want to take away and that they can work on, right? Something tangible, not be a better operator, right. Not be a better shooter. I got to do more dry fire, be more specific. And, man, I was really just kind of blown away with how that conversation, because of the space that we were able to create over those 3 days, it unlocked something in some of those guys. And as a team, I mean, guys were sharing stuff about each other or about themselves to each other. And, one of them in particular said something in relation to what you were saying about, how he starts his day, and this was shared with me more recently as well, is being proactive versus reactive. And I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like, I just get up and go. But being proactive about that peace, right? Starting your day with that, because once you leave your home, because your home should be your temple, your sanctuary, where you can let your guard down, be prepared and all those things, but it's safe, right? Safety and security. And we have to radiate that for our families. Now, if our life is just go, react, then we don't have peace at home. That radiates to our spouse, that radiates to our children. And then we leave the house and go out into the world. And that's just, we have stress at our fingertips now.
Yeah.
Our phones there's so much stress out there, and the brain doesn't know the difference between like a perceived threat and stress like that. So to us, we're kind of culturally, we're in this heightened state on a regular basis. And just because it's not like, oh, we're getting shot at heightened, if you've ever experienced that, or been in a car accident or avoided a car accident, that fight, flight, or freeze space, that, that manifests very, very, you either do one of those three things really well, and that's the way that we were beautifully designed by God.
Yeah.
But now we're constantly in this react mode, and little things become more difficult. So I use this analogy of like, if 80% of our bandwidth is being taken up in fight, flight, or freeze to do one of those three, we got 20% to do everything else. So that's why little things become difficult. And that's where auditory and visual occlusion and all those things happen. But my whole point is that's a human response to the unknown, to fear.
Yeah.
But now we just have it ingrained in our system to just be so anxious as soon as we wake up or lay our head down. So that peace, man, I'm telling you, it's beautiful. I'm never going to rob myself of that peace that I've been given. And I'm never going to like take the peace away from others.
Well, you said earlier though, it takes intentionality to have it, right? It's not just going to come.
Perfect
this
practice.
This world is going to always disrupt your peace. It's chaotic. It's broken. It's fallen, and especially now with the access to phone, and you're exposed to so much. This world will take peace away from you, but so it requires you to be intentional.
Yeah, and I love you said intention, because it's perfect practice makes permanent.
Yeah,
right. We've all heard practice makes perfect.
Yeah,
man, I'm not perfect. You're not. Nobody is, other than Jesus Christ, man. So, but I got someone to chase, and other men that God's placed in my life to pour into, and that are pouring into me, and vice versa. And, to sharpen one another. And that's why Blu Bearing exists. I'm on this path, right? So Blu Bearing, it's a direct correlation of the Radisson Blu, but the way it's spelled, but bearing, right? So land navigation, orienteering, it's one of the most, throughout my military career, that's the most peaceful I've ever felt, is doing, land navigation. It's you against the terrain, an unknown time standard, and a map and a compass to trust in your gut, right? That intuition of man, because you can't recover from a bad decision in most cases if you're in mountainous terrain.
You're too far off course.
So, but the peace that you get when you're out there, those glimpses of that throughout my career, is just one of those things, man. But the bearing, right? I lived my life all the way up till, a few years ago. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So, and that was my life. And, that seems, cause you're moving and you're on a road, right? You're not just in the thick of the brush. Like, it seems like you're going somewhere. You are going somewhere. You just don't know where you're going. So you're lost in a way. You're lost. And, that's one of those things where it took a spiritual awakening for me to let go, to step into the light, like physically, metaphorically, spiritually, and stay in the light, and be the light in this world. And, but I have to stay on that path, right? And the bearing that I was able to see in that light from God is if you've ever done this, and I know you have, is, you can dead reckon, right? As far as orienteering, you can basically just like shoot an azimuth and just like bury your head into the compass and go from one thing to the next thing, and you're missing life. Or you can terrain associate. So you shoot,
looking at everything around you.
And you're able to see, but you can also, if you're terrain associating, you can drift. You can definitely get, there's more risk of getting lost if you don't really know how to terrain associate. So you do that with one another, right? So you stay on this path, and, hey, pick your head up, bud, or, hey, where are you going? Come over here. You're deviating off course a bit, off this bearing that we're supposed to be on. So the people, and one in particular, Blake Cook, is my training partner. He's the director of law enforcement training at Blu Bearing now, and he's been with me for 2 years, and he's my best friend and my co-host of our podcast, the Black and Blue Podcast. Check it out. It's on all the things. But he was placed in my life for a reason, as I was in his. And if you've listened to our interviews on Sean Ryan or his more specifically, he thinks that it was kind of one-sided, right? So I want to make sure that he understands that I needed him just as much as he needed me at that time.
That's true brotherhood, right? It's brotherhood's not. We're talking with your other partner out there. Not camaraderie. Camaraderie is one thing. Camaraderie and brotherhood are very different.
Well, think about brothers in arms, right? We had a lot of those, right, through our job, and brother in arms is huge. Like that's the guys that are gonna be doing all their PCCs, PCIs, pre-combat checks and inspections, and checking all their kit, right? And they're not late, light, or out of uniform. They're gonna be there. You're gonna go right. They're gonna go left. Those guys, those are the brothers in arms. But the brotherhood is a term that, man, I used to get so much resentment, or I guess angst or rage about it, because I felt like, well, is it really a brotherhood? But the fact is it's not them, it's me. It's only what I'm willing to share. Into me I let you see, right? Intimacy is one of these things where, like, I never really understood that until more recently, and it just meant sex, right? With my wife, and that's a problem, like, because it's so much more, right? It's about that deep connection, to feel safe and secure, but you have to share your vulnerabilities, right, with other men too. About, hey man, I don't stay in Airbnb. I don't stay in hotels by myself. So, hey Blake, if I try to go to the gas station at 9:30 at night, what are you gonna do? He's like, well, I need to go to the gas station too. And it's not because I'm gonna, like, look at alcohol and lose my mind, or look at something I shouldn't and lose my mind. But is there a chance? Absolutely. And I'm a grateful recovered, alcoholic. And I say,
explain that. You said a vertical recovered?
Grateful recovered. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not active in AA anymore, but man, that really helped me get to this, really to get to God, between my wife, the rooms of AA. But I, as a Christian, a year after I got sober, those 90 meetings in 90 days, I needed rescuing, right? And the rooms are a safe place to do that. And, I don't feel the need to ruminate on being an alcoholic. Like, I don't need to say, hey, I'm Kyle, I'm an alcoholic. Right. I'm not. I am a follower of Christ first. And I struggle with alcohol, and I struggle with lust, and I struggle with ego and pride, as all men do. Pride is our enemy. So, for me, I'm taking back control of what I can, right? The people, places, and things had to change, and they did. I did that. That took time. But it's about intention. Does this serve me in my life anymore? People, places, and things. And that, having been sober for 3.5 years, like, I'm a walking toddler, right? In this, but like also, an example that it's possible, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I just have to surround myself with the right people that hold each other accountable. And I have and will. I
love seeing how you guys are doing it. It's how Blu Bearing has become that kind of family and support network, not just a company. But so before I want to get into this, like, before Blu Bearing, before this, this walk you're on right now in your faith, and before being part of the, the unit and special missions unit for the Army, like, as a kid, where'd you grow up, and what gave you this aspiration to be where you are today?
Man, so you mentioned talk therapy, so I still do it as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm currently working on is being able to feel. I'm so grateful to feel emotion, right? And so I'm still trying to, because I just stopped feeling and all I thought was it was just all bad, my childhood. And there's glimpses of these moments because I don't have any photos from childhood, you know, and I'll explain that in a second. But like, you know, that I have to work through that with a professional, and I am, as far as the childhood trauma stuff, and you know, because it's all learned behavior. You know, the examples that people are setting either through their words and their actions. You know, what's acceptable, what's not, and you know, I was born in Florida, Central Florida, and jumped around. You know, lived in New York for a bit, and then Virginia, and then back to Florida for high school. So it was I think I went to 4 different high schools, or 5. So it was extremely like unstable as far as, you know, planting some roots somewhere. But I kind of thought it was fun. I got to like see and, you know, try something different, you know, but I never really learned, you know, who I was. And I don't expect children to understand who they are. I have them. I say children. I have three adult children now. 24. My son's 24. My daughters are 19, 18, and 10. What a blessing.
Yeah.
And
19, 18, and 10. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I being away from them right now to do this mission that's Blu Bearing. You know, we're very intentional about when we do travel, but it's still hard. It's very hard, and this is very different than 5 years ago, Kyle. You know, and it's growth, right? So like, I don't want to be away from home. I don't. There's nothing out there that I'm like, I got to go do this. It's a family decision if I'm going to be away. And this is one of the things that, you know, we're gone for a week. But that's the mission at Blu Bearing. My wife, Erica, you know, she runs the company, with me. So, you know, the stability in my childhood and all the way through adolescence just wasn't there. And then the safety wasn't there either. So what I mean is, you know, I was athletic. I played baseball, football, basketball, since I was 5, all the way up through till I couldn't because of my grades, you know, my 10th, 11th grade year of high school. And man, what I realized now, looking back, of course, is that because of the feeling unsafe at home, and then not really knowing who I was, and you know, learning how to adjust my emotion or my actions to make you happy, you know, because if you weren't happy, then things kind of start flying. So all I did was learn how to people please. Hey, you know, you like me, right? You know, and that was my identity at that, you know, that age, and all the way up until, you know, 3.5 years ago, really. Yeah. But it's one of those things where even on sport teams, it's this, you know, this brotherhood, and you're a part of a team and a family. And when that went away, that's when I really started to kind of act out, you know, at 16 years old. And because my GPA fell, and I had all this potential that wasn't being kind of, you know, developed in a way or guided. And you know, there were mentors that helped me along the way, you know, positive male role models that I looked up to at the time. You know, and that's where a big thing is whether it's your biological father or not, you know, you have an opportunity as a man to mentor our youth, our nation's youth, our legacy. Yeah. You know, they are our legacy, is them and their children. So, you know, that led me up to, you know, joining the service in December of 2001, 3 months after 9/11. You know, and then I just went to another team in the Army.
What led you, like you said, you joined the service? Like, was there any kind of inspiration, or it's just there's no other options? Like,
well, I mean, obviously, like you remember the visceral feeling that we all felt, even as I was a 17-year-old in a senior in high school when 9/11 happened. And I had a teacher that had served in the Army, and more specifically in the Ranger Regiment in the 90s. And I was very interested in, I was like, what's that? He had photos or whatever. And I was like, what is that? What were y'all doing there? And he would tell me some stories here and there. But he also was helping me get onto this, like, he was setting me straight too, because I wasn't going to graduate. My whole junior year, all I did was skip school and not pass classes.
Yeah.
So my senior year, he before it started that summer, he set me straight and set me on a path to graduate. And then a couple months into that senior year, 9/11 happened. So I looked at him and said, what can I do? I want to do something. What can I do? And he said, well, man, you can join the Army. And he didn't hold my hand through it, but he kind of pointed me in the directions. And so I like to think I didn't grow up in a military family or any of that. No, I don't have a long family history of service in the military. So that's in my mind. That's I wanted to be a part of a team, and I wanted to go. We all felt so exposed as a country in that time frame. So, it was probably a bit naive, but at the time, but I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, the Army seems like it was a great place for you. You've had an incredible career there as going first in infantry and then become a Green Beret, and then going over to the unit and working with one of our premier special missions units, and you got to be part of something pretty significant in 2015.
Yeah,
and there a lot of people think that these special mission units do like real world hostage rescue all the time, but it's very rare that you actually get to do the thing that you train your whole life to do, and you got to be part of that. And
that's the no fail mission. That's what we spend 80% of the time training on,
just to prepare for that that moment in
it's
case.
The no fail.
Yeah.
And being in the right place at the right time, and having the confidence that I was the right person. I was by myself. I in that country by myself. So I wasn't doing any sneaky this or that. Like, I was there in a suit and tie, working as a part of an advisor to the U.S. country team there at the embassy in Bamako, Mali, during a deployment. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was supposed to be going after ISIS as a part of another thing. And, someone else didn't feel like they could do that type of thing of interacting with, the higher level country team folks, ambassadors and whatnot. And having a special forces background, and being a social person and extrovert, I was kind of a unicorn there.
Yeah.
But that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do that mission. I was like, what is the mission? We'll maintain relationships, because we need to hand this over to our Navy counterpart so we can go. We need every single one of us to go dismantle the caliphate that's starting, or that's trying to start with ISIS. And so I was a bit, I was butthurt,
Yeah.
I got over there and it's all cocktail hours and Vespers and a lot of drinking.
That's State Department life, right?
Yeah. And I was like, well, I like to party. So I was lost, man. And that moment, when I did get that call, I had been in country for 3 weeks, man. And still trying to figure which way is this and that. But the training, all the training I've had, the preparation, I knew exactly where all of my kit was. And I oriented, decided, and acted, right? Like, I heard the sounds of gunfire. I got a phone call, then I moved to the sounds of gunfire.
Before you get into it, can you paint a picture of what actually took place to initiate the call? Like what?
Yeah, so it was about 7:15 in the morning, and I got the call from someone from the State Department about an ongoing attack that just kicked off. There's 5 to 8 armed gunmen that just storming the Radisson Blu Hotel from embassy vehicles. Actually, they said 5 to 8 armed gunmen just launched an attack getting out of embassy vehicles. Like they would drive and pick up the TDY people from all the embassies, not just American,
Right.
in the morning after breakfast, and then take them to their embassies. Right. So, explosions, so that was the call I got. So I was like, ooh, that's not a fair fight. But there was 2 MARSOC guys in the country that I had, my positions past, had built a relationship with them anyways.
Yeah.
So first call is to them. And then the State Department regional security officers, they're the ones in charge of saying, hey, this is safe zones, and the safety of the embassy itself.
And for those that don't know, the RSO is essentially the U.S.'s head security for that country.
Yeah.
That's our representative.
Yeah, so they're actually in charge of the what's the Marine detail that
It's MSG, Marine Security
Marine Security
Guard
Guards,
detail
that's
for
right.
the embassies.
But they're the Marine Security Guard. They're there for the protection of the embassy, and so the RSO has to go out and like, hey, is this safe to travel? Is this not, for not just State Department employees, like American citizens? So it's a lot of responsibility. But they have they had stayed in that hotel. They had been in that hotel. It wasn't far. It was only 3/4 of a mile from my house. And I was living in a house that was designed for a team of people, and I was the TL of one, because we weren't getting the, if you don't understand where Bamako, Mali is, it's in the Trans-Sahel in Africa, in North Africa. And it's been a breeding ground for Al-Qaeda, AQIM, to rebuild, and through the all the different old like smuggling routes and everything is desert. And so we've been trying to go after them for a long time, but we weren't getting the support we needed. But we would support the French, and their kinetic mission there. So ultimately, though, it wasn't far from the hotel, but that was the information I got on the first call, though. So I called the MARSOC guys, and then the RSO called me, and then we linked up in front of my house. And I shared a lot of this story on the Sean Ryan interview. But yeah, I mean, it's like I was in the right place at the right time, and I had all of this training, and I had all these other operations that I'd been on, and dealt with evil, and so I was in the right place, and and assembling a team. So leadership,
It's
right?
just guys like putting together a team, logistics,
Ad
like
hoc,
something
just
happens
on the
like
fly.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, where
having
you get
never done CQB
ammo
together, maybe we went to the range like once. I was like, hey, you guys want to go to the range or something? We've been there for 3 weeks. I had been there for 3 weeks. So, on me, like, so let's go. And they trusted me to lead, and to the point where even the chief of mission at the time was like, hey, let the Malian security forces deal with it, as we're about to make entry. And I had to basically encourage him by saying, hey, I'm going to lead. So-and-so knows exactly where the room is, because we had gotten a call of a guy that was in an American in a room on fire, hiding underneath the table. They just shot up. So imminent loss of life. And, just the confidence, that the empowerment, right? So the empowerment that the unit gives to its men and women, right? Mm-hmm. It's the definition of a professional organization. So anywhere we go, we feel empowered, because we are empowered to make decisions in a crisis, or just strategic level decision making. And people see that, and your actions match it, right? So it was extremely cohesive, man, how we were able to just kind of make that happen and go.
So it's three of you.
It was five of us.
5 of us.
So 2 MARSOC guys and 2 RSOs. They were ARSOs, so assistants.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would have been DSS agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one was acting because the actual RSO was on vacation or something, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you guys, American imminent
Loss of life. Yep.
and you guys make the decision to go in.
Yep.
What was that like? What were you? I mean,
So
for you, like, what's going through your mind? Like,
well, when I was getting my stuff ready and moving that way, I was real like, let's go,
yeah,
that's why I'm here. I'm like, that's why I'm here. I figured it out. And, being honest, looking back, like as we assembled the team, I just felt super exposed as soon as I cracked that door. I didn't go through the front doors because you could clearly see they shot up through the front doors and just broken glass, and there was bodies throughout, and so I chose like a side door, and I popped into that thing, and it was just like overwhelming. Think of like a banquet room, or not like a large auditorium, but kind of like one of those separate conference rooms or whatever, but just really dark, smoky. Fire alarms are going off. Eerily silent though, because the last explosions and shots I heard was right before I made entry. So it was extremely, eerie. That's why I put my nods on. And I was the only person that had all of my things, as far as kit, and that was, I was overwhelmed, to be honest. Like my actions didn't match that, but inside of my head, I was like, this is a lot. This is a lot. I don't have my troop or squadron like to just dominate this structure. And it's a 7-story. If you think about like these two kind of spiral staircases, this kind of atrium that has like I guess the embassy suites would be like how most of those are set up, where it's exposed in the middle. So when I made it out into that move, we had to get to the second floor to get to basically the breakfast area, because they chased everyone in and then set that on fire. That's where the American was trapped in that room. And the RSO knew it was on the second floor, but the only way to get to it was to basically bound up this spiral glass staircase, super exposed. And I just went straight to my Army training. I'm like, hey man, 10 to 2, hey, 10 to 2, you cover this, you cover that. I'm making a move. I'll let you know when I'm set. And then we just bounded up, kicked the doors in on that. I could see the smoke from underneath the doors, but I kicked them in, and you couldn't see a foot in front of your face. It was so thick. I didn't feel like the heat yet, but I just went running in, and because I had never done fire rescue training, and ran in and stopped, drop, and roll. No, I inherently just got really low to the ground because I want to breathe, and there's maybe some air down there.
Yeah, you don't need training to do that, right?
Yeah, you don't need, that's like a self-correcting problem. But, but I tell you what though, like I went in there and I almost went too far because I couldn't see the door I came in on. I couldn't see where I was going. It was like I was in a cloud, and then a cloud that you can't breathe in,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I almost, I think if I went any further, I probably would have died. But I was able to turn around because I'm yelling that dude's name, trying to use my gun light to get him to come to me. So I turned around and went back and found the wall, and then went back to the door, and then said, hey, let's get him on the phone directly. Cause he was talking through post 1, and then they were relaying that to us, and it was too slow. So we got him on the phone directly. And having done fire rescue training now, with what I think is the best at it, in FDNY rescue units, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I learned, how to manipulate the fire to, eventually it's going to make it worse, but for a rescue, we essentially vented it in a way, and it lifted, and I was able to get a little further and get him out.
What state was he in when you got him out? He was
like hanging on by, he looked like he was just, in such shock that, his eyes were just like red, like the whites in his eyes. He looked like he was just hanging on by the sheer will to survive.
Thank God you guys.
And there are some people that, I'd kick a door in because I was going for after. Either way, there's certain rooms I would go to specifically to look for Americans that were unaccounted for. And some of them would have everything barricaded in front of it. And I'm like, hey, friendly, hey, I'm
let
here.
us in.
Yeah, let me in. And I was so proud of them for that, you know.
Yeah.
And then they'd come through and be like, hey, glad you're here. Let's go, you know. And then some people, like grown men, I had to like carry and carry. And I say that because, you know, one in particular, this is something they don't train you for. Like 2-3 days after I'm at the embassy, I didn't care, man. I was in like wearing whatever. I didn't have a suit on. I just had a t-shirt on. And they were evacuating all these personnel over several days. And this man came up to me and he's like, hey man, and he was crying. And he's like, hey, can I get a hug from you? And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? And I didn't understand it, but he recognized the tattoo on my arm. It's pretty distinguishable, and because he was just looking down, and you know, I vaguely remembered him. There was a lot of people, but you know that this world needs protectors.
Yeah.
And but we have to learn how to protect ourselves first, man. Our mind, body, and our spirit, and then we can truly embrace, you know, being the best protector we can. And if you think about the body of Christ, right, it's the lungs, you know, the lungs don't do good outside the body, but we need them.
Yeah.
We need them. I think I'm more of like the hands, you know, and but I need the lungs. I need the head, you know.
In contrast to where you are today, like in that moment, we talk about resiliency on this show, right? The pillars of resiliency: mind, body, spirit, social. Like in order to do that kind of work well, like you might be able to get by and do it without all those pillars, but to come back from it, right? You really need all of them. And what would you say, like, you know, obviously you're in shape mentally, physically, socially, you had an ad hoc team, but where were you at spiritually in that time in your life when did that rescue happen?
I was lost, man. I was lost. You know, I said I was a Christian because it was, I think, you know, I put it on my dog tags, you know, back at 18 years old, I'm a Christian, you know, fighting this war, you know, against radical extremism.
Yeah.
And, but I also worshiped something that wasn't God, which was a piece of cloth, which was our flag.
Yeah.
And I am so proud to be an American, and
sure,
I don't want people to take that the wrong way, but it became about being on this team, this winning team, you know, and being a high performer on that team, became so much, that was my identity. And, you know, so if you're worshiping those things, then you're not a Christian. Right. That's the opposite, right? We have to worship God and only God. And, you know, that took a lot of lessons to learn throughout my whole career.
And you could do that and still be a patriot. And you could do that and still be an amazing soldier.
And I'm so proud of the guys. That's the thing is, like, think about through our careers. Like I wasn't I was a believer. No, I can't even say believer. I was just like, I was conforming to what I thought was cool. And, you know, but the guys that were not just believers, but followers of how they lived their life of Christ, you know, and doing the same job together. You know, I have regret for this, but I used to kind of look at them and not have any grace, like for any mistakes they'd make, and some wouldn't. And I'm like, man, he's a good dude, you know, he just doesn't hang out with us because he's like, we don't do that in front of him. You know, because he's going to judge us because he's that kind of guy. Yeah. And not when I say that kind of guy, he's a follower of Christ, clearly. Right. And he lives it and radiates it, and he still performs at the highest level. And then, but what I have the most regret for is the guys that, if they made any mistakes and they were like that, I would be like, see, what's your weakness, dude? That's all weakness.
Yeah.
you know, and that's just, that's
overcritical.
That's
of
insecure.
Them.
I was being insecure of, you know, something that the faith thing that they had, that I was like, that's not real. I can't trust anything. I can't trust. My trust was fractured for me as a very young child. You know, I witnessed my grandfather molested my sister, and that broke what was right, what was wrong. And, you know, the resentment that built up even for my own parents about how I felt like they didn't protect us. And we just kind of moved around running from our problems. And that's all I did up until 3.5 years ago, was just kind of move around and run from my problems, even if I'm creating them, you know. And it's just taking ownership in our lives, man. And I'm just so proud of those guys that were able to do that career and maintain that level of faith and performance on demand.
Yeah.
And the messages that the blessings throughout my life, even though I wasn't ready to receive them then, I am now, and I get to reap all of the reward from those blessings because I'm being intentional about, well, that's too late, you know. And I want to be, if I can thank those people or the places or the situations, then I will. I'll go up and thank them for those.
Do you think any seeds were planted from those guys?
Say that again.
Would you think any seeds were planted from those guys? They're with
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I look back at them, and because I know I can do it, right? Like, I'm not doing the same job that I used to, but I am walking that same walk that they did.
Yeah.
And performed on demand under stress. And I'm applying that into this mission at Blu Bearing.
Yeah.
And maintaining integrity. So the integrity of my heart and the skill of my hand. You know, that's why, you know, that God chose David. And even though I fractured that integrity through decisions and circumstances and all those things, doesn't mean I don't have integrity. Yeah. It's just I definitely, you know, struggled for a long time with well, I have integrity because that's the Army values, right? Honor, right. Duty, selfless service. But I had integrity on the battlefield. I did. But then at home, when all those things started to add up, all the injuries and the trauma, my integrity was, because I was really good at that and I wasn't good at this. So I went to what I was good at, and then the comfort of alcohol to medicate through that. So, and then that just was a slope that just took me onto this path of self-destruction, which led me to a spiritual awakening. You know,
before we leave it, how'd the incident at Radisson Blu end? How did you guys? What was the wrap up? How many individuals did you guys get out of there?
Personally, I mean, anywhere from 15 to 18 Americans, like my own hands on them. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is, so if I got the call at 7:15, we were in the hotel at 7:45, 7:50, and then I encountered the shooters just by chance because I was searching for a bank of room numbers on the highest floor because I wanted to start from the top down.
Right.
So I actually tried to find a way to get to the top of the building from outside, but I couldn't find anything. So I kind of looked at the bottom floors after we got the first American out of that room on fire. I looked at the bottom floor because, you know, the banks of rooms, I knew that they would be mirrored, or they should have been. You know, at the bottom on the first floor, it's the same on the 7th floor. So I had Americans unaccounted for already, a list, and I just grabbed some scrap paper off the ground, some trash, and I still have this like photo. It's pretty cool, but just scribbling like names and room numbers. And, you know, so I was trying to find access to that bank of rooms and through a stairwell. And, you know, that search took me, you know, on a path that essentially was following the shooters, because the shooters were, you know, they were an affiliate. So it was Al Batoon, an affiliate of Al Qaeda, and they'd been planning this for a long time. So it wasn't, they didn't launch it from embassy driver vehicles. It wasn't 5 to 8 armed gunmen. It was 3 guys on their suitcases that started it across the street. So they were waiting for the vehicles and the people to start coming out, And then they launched their attack from across the street, and their suitcases were just full of all their things. They were sterile, meaning like they didn't have any pocket litter. But the thing they did find was some room numbers written, and they were targeting. I believe they were targeting the Air France crew, more specifically, because they always stayed in a certain section of that hotel. But they were also targeting anyone that couldn't recite the Quran. They executed.
How many people did they kill?
I think it ended up being 25 to 27. The numbers are mixed.
Yeah. Then you guys.
But they didn't kill another innocent person once I ran into them in the stairwell. They became a barricaded shooter.
Say that again.
It became a barricaded shooter situation.
So what happened there when you guys encountered them?
Stairwells are the most dangerous environment in close quarters battle. I'm running up the stairs, and it's got the landings and open railing in between. So fighting uphill is dangerous, and I'm applying the techniques that I've practiced and done, and I'm about here in my turn to go try to clear the top landing from halfway up the stairs, and that's when I catch one of the shooters in my peripheral, and I swing the gun over, and as I'm swinging it over, I see that I'm staring down his muzzle, and from 5 feet away, maybe, between me and him up on the landing, and it's just the rest is just very I don't know. I just kept fighting, but it knocked me out for a second. The first shot, excuse me. Yeah. He had me dead to rights. I'm here, and I kept fighting, but he kept shooting, and I kept shooting back towards him, and I caught a glimpse of another guy behind him, but it was like Pulp Fiction, where Samuel L. Jackson comes out of the bathroom, and then the dude pulls out that pistol and just misses all around him, And I definitely didn't see that as a divine intervention at the time.
Right.
But I should be dead for sure. And but I was hurting too, man. Like the concussion was so bad. I'd been concussed a lot through the military, but this was bad. And then I went to go run back up right away, and that's when they threw grenades down. Yelled Allah Akbar, and I heard the primer pop. It's like a Russian style grenade. It's a very audible pop, and I was able to jump down the stairs. And I just ate that blast too.
Well, all five of you guys are together in this, or?
The way that the opening from the hallway into that stairwell, I mean, maybe one guy was behind me at that time, like maybe right behind me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have my team, and it's that crushed me for a long time. There's some shots that I can't account for, and I don't miss. Mm-hmm.
What was the disposition? I mean, I know you don't have to go into detail of all of it if you don't want to, but what was the disposition, like the three bad guys, you guys?
No, it was me 1v1 in this. I saw the glimpse of another dude maybe behind him, but it was 1v1 at that point. And there was a railing between us, right? The handrail, and then there was some like aesthetic tubular metal. Right. And that first round, that's what this tattoo is on my arm. Like that first round is like, I went back several days because I could not make sense of why I'm still here. Because I stared down the muzzle, and he cracked that first round off, but it didn't hit me. But I went back and looked at the perspective several times and took photos, and there was a ricochet in between my perspective and his from a bullet. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me scientifically. But I believe God's hand was on me, and it always has been, because he knew that there was more that I could do for his kingdom.
Yeah, he had a plan
And that
for
was
you.
shaping me. And to be honest, like that exposed me in a way, physically, mentally, and spiritually, and challenged me. I was hurting so bad after that. And that was earlier in the morning. And then I started to clear and got, had all the Malian security forces started to come in because of like, hey man, that's why I tell people as I teach active shooters, be the one that brings the other 9 home.
Yeah.
And 90 other dudes shouldn't even be there. So be the one, man, that leads by example, and that your courage through your actions gives them courage and the confidence that they have the ability to make a difference. And that's why we teach active shooter response training, because that was a very, I couldn't make sense of it because it was an active shooter. Like it just, I was on a military deployment, and I didn't have my team. There was no chance to prepare my mind, body, and spirit like we do with the excruciating level of detail in our planning process and contingency plans and all these things.
Yeah.
So it's an active shooter. So in our motto at Blu Bearing is prepare for the known and react to the unknown. Because I never want to get complacent with things that I've learned that are good for me in my life, whether it's shooting, moving, communicating, or how I am as a man, interpersonally with other men, or, as a husband, as a father. But then sharing that, right? Knowledge is one of the most powerful things if we're willing to share it with one another. So it can become a known for you and vice versa. And then it's just reacting to the unknown, which is fear.
Yeah, I'm super proud that Smith & Wesson Firearms is a supporter of this show. I have been shooting Smith & Wesson firearms since I was a kid. This is one of America's most patriotic companies that has been around 170 years. The Resilient Show is honored to partner with Smith & Wesson. I personally use Smith & Wesson firearms every day for my everyday carry. I keep Smith & Wesson firearms in my home for my home defense. When I'm out on the range practicing, it is a Smith & Wesson at the end of my grip. So check them out, and I hope you join me in carrying one of America's most iconic firearms. I used to teach this a lot. I haven't in quite some time on the limbic system. A lot. If someone were to bust in this room right now and start shooting AK-47, this not just you and I in here. There's other people behind the cameras. Everyone reacts different, right? Some people are gonna run and look for a way out to get out.
I'm
place
out
to
right
hide.
now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So some people are gonna freeze and not do anything, and others are gonna run towards that sound of gunfire and save the day. And I think most people classify those people as like heroes, cowards, and sheep, right? The heroes run towards the gunfire, the cowards run away, and the sheep freeze. But really, it's not a decision I believe you make in that moment. It's a decision you made in the beginning, like to prepare for that moment, and it's programmed in the limbic system, which is reptilian, but it is programmable through training, through thought. Like maybe the person who ran thought, oh my gosh, if that ever happens, if we're ever in a shooting situation, I'm going to die. And so they're programming themselves to flee.
Yeah.
The person who never thought anything, never thought they'd be in that situation ever before, their limbic system can't decide because it's never decided, so they freeze. And then the guy that was daydreaming about that happening one day, that I'm going to get to,
we're conditioned.
do that. Right. And you condition yourself, right?
You're conditioned, like we conditioned ourselves and the environments we worked in and the teams we were on, to safeguard our bandwidth in that space and to move towards that, right? Be hard to kill by being a moving target. And, so
the more you do that, the more you condition your limbic system to respond and pre-program it to operate that way.
Absolutely.
Or to even come out of you.
And that's a very, very, and this is for anyone in the audience, but is that preparation versus paranoia. And being prepared is required of us as a man to protect, but that line is gray on when it starts to become just paranoid.
Yeah.
And that's why we have each other to be like, okay, does that make sense? And hey, you all right, man?
Yeah.
Because being stuck in that state of fight, fight, or freeze in the moment. Like I gave the analogy of the 80%. Now, that operator syndrome thing, have you heard of that? Like, is what they're calling, it's like a combination of, the Venn diagram of like TBI and PTS,
Yes.
where they overlap the symptoms. They're basically coupling, all these different diagnoses into what they're saying is operator syndrome of being stuck in flight, fight, or freeze for extended periods of time.
Yes.
Like when I say extended, I mean like a year, 2 years.
Yeah, like you're living that way.
Yeah, but because you're not at 80, because that'd be very clear to everybody, something's wrong with you, in normal life. You're at 40.
Yeah,
you're at 50.
You're ready. All the time.
And that's where, for us, like for me, I agitated, I had no patience for anything anymore. I would just fly off the rails for this and that. And then all the other symptoms, right. Where, I'd stutter. There's a combination of all the, traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, substance abuse, marital discord or conflict. It impacted me in such a way that, all the little things became more difficult. And then the people that felt that the most, because, it eventually affected my ability to be on a team, because of my personal decision-making. But the people that felt it first was my wife and children, because I took advantage of that. I was like, well, they'll always be there. So I can just treat them how I am, hear me, right? I am, this is my home, me, I'm hurting. And, they never deserved that. And, but I've been given this opportunity to rebuild that trust with them only because of, my wife, Erica's belief in God and leading towards God. And when I pushed her away, she went closer to God. And, so the blessing in that trauma was it deepened her faith in God.
Which built the foundation for your family.
And then, yes. And then that I saw that, and I saw that it wasn't a gimmick, as much as I tried to challenge it and test it. And I would even say things like, I don't need your God. Like, cause she would write scriptures and you try to motivate me or pick my head up, sometimes. And, ultimately, she was stepped into that spiritual leader of our home. But now that's my responsibility. Now that she's given me that opportunity to do that by her example, by her grace, by her forgiveness. But I have to rebuild trust, and there's no like finish line with that. So like I have to keep doing it every day.
When I know you've been involved in a lot of things. This is one of them. And by the way, for the audience watching, this is the Radisson Blu Hotel, and the image behind us.
It's one of them.
One of them.
It's is it the new one? I think they might have built a new one. Is that? Yeah.
The guys put it up.
I think they ended up tearing down the old one there, but yeah.
Of all the things that you've been through, you come home and you take this stuff home with you. What were the first, like, when did you first get recognition? Like, I'm not being the husband, the father, the person I'm supposed to be.
Night.
There's a problem.
That night. Well, even before that, like, I believe that 2015 was a really rough year for me, but for my family.
Yeah.
But a blessing that we had our youngest, Kennedy, that year, January. And I really do believe, so 2014, Erica was pregnant, and with her, and it had been 8 years, the gap between her and the next youngest. So, and, a lot of things had happened in between as far as my military career. And, we were kind of at wit's end up to that point. And then she got pregnant with Kennedy, and I saw that she needs me to protect her again. And, it kind of gave us some hope in our marriage. And then Kennedy was born in January of 2015, and I left for Iraq in mid spring and didn't come home until July, and then I left in October for Mali. So it was a really intense year, and so that night after the attack, and I called back home, and I don't know if I'd already started drinking. I'm sure I did, but I was crying. I was bawling, crying, and Erica just starts going like, "Oh my God, what's wrong? What happened? What's going on?" Like, she hadn't seen me do that, and I don't know. At that moment right there is when I disconnected from her. I said, "There's nothing you can do. You can't help me. You can't do anything for me." And I just said, "Can I talk to the kids?" And I told them I love them. And then, it's one of those things where I had to stay in that country for almost, the rest of that trip, almost 4 months. Just unraveling. And everyone looked at me as like, "Oh, if something happens again, we'll just link up with Kyle. He'll figure it out." And I'm over like, man, I'm losing it right now. And, my family suffered the most. And I told Erica, I called her, that December or New Year's Eve. And I was like, "Hey, I'm leaving when I get home."
Leaving.
Like moving out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want a divorce. My whole point is that like, I needed rescuing, and, I went home after that and I moved out, and I tried to reinvent myself. I couldn't even pay my own bills. Erica helped me with that. She helped me get an apartment. She was like, "Hey, you just need some space." And, I took advantage of that, and, I'm on my third and final attempt at the same marriage. I've been married for 20 years to the strongest person that I've ever had in my life. And I love her, and I'm never going to leave her, and I'm never going to hurt her.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I did, I will protect her heart, her mind. I will lead her, and my family, my children. And God willing, their children. Because success looks like, to me, that when I say my last words, I say it to her, to them, and if God wills it, grandchildren. That's who I want in that room. I don't care what possessions I have. That's my greatest possession. That's my legacy. And this is so hard to reconcile with this duality that I had in my life of, well, I'm this, but I'm also a husband, but I'm this first. I'm a professional soldier. I'm a special operator. I'm a war hero. And I'm proud of my military service. I am.
Right.
But I'm proud of the people I was able to serve with, because it's a team sport, man.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to have been on the teams I've been on and the missions I've been able to accomplish. So it's not, the regret is not shame anymore, right? The regret is for some of the decision making of not wanting to be confident enough to put words to my values, right? To put actual words. I had them. I knew that wasn't right. I knew what I did wasn't right, but I chose to feel this like temptation of the flesh, to feel this very temporary kind of joy. It's not joy. It's pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pleasure can very, very, very easily be mixed with, confused with joy.
Right.
So joy is from God. Pleasure is the flesh. And, I'm not saying we don't need to, feel pleasure, but
Sure.
It's
but it has its place and its
yeah,
context, right?
yeah.
Appropriate. I mean,
thank you for letting me share that. That was like, I needed to say that. That was really,
yeah, I just kind of I figured it was a good time for me to shut up and let you talk.
Well, I've allowed myself to feel, man. So like I say, I've allowed it.
Yeah.
God has transformed my mind, and He still is.
Yeah.
And softened my heart. So when I
Man.
feel these things, it's just like, whew.
Well, I see. I mean, you know, a lot of a lot of people have saw your episode on Sean Ryan, and you know, you and I even talked about this. This is you definitely have an evolved person even since that time.
Yeah.
And your walk's evolving, and I'm just very thankful that you're willing to share that, because I believe not everybody was at the unit, not everybody served, but everybody listening has been through life and hardships. And we, Stu Weber says this in the book Tender Warrior, like the things we deal with is in the heart of every, or the things we deal with is in the chest of every man we know, right? It's we all face hardships in life, and while there's a million ways in this world you can be hurt or make mistakes, there's one way to get well, and I believe that's through a relationship with Jesus
and being vulnerable, right?
Yeah, you have to.
But what does being vulnerable open you up to also getting?
And your vulnerability is going to speak to so many listening, and so
people,
but
we don't share what's in our chest with others, even though it's the same as that metaphor you just gave,
right?
Because of this, I don't want to get hurt. I can't. That's weakness. I can't do that, because being vulnerable as a man now allows me to potentially get hurt by people. They could take that and be like, "Oh man, you're just like this," or "You're a piece of crap. You're an adulterer. You're this." No, man, I'm a follower of Christ, and I have been redeemed only because of that. And the only reason my marriage is even possible is because we're both pursuing Jesus.
Right. Yeah. One thing you said earlier, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm not speaking ill against AA, because I think AA has helped a lot of people, but one thing I could never subscribe to is I'm an alcoholic.
The rumination piece of it,
because I believe in redemption, and and I believe in God can make all things new, and I don't think holding on to the identity of a sin is something that we should ever do.
I think there's an element of in the beginning for me, like, because the stigma of I'm an alcoholic, because I couldn't ever like make sense of that, because I would try to quantify it. Well, my dad drank 24 beers a night. I don't do that. I don't need it to sleep. I don't need it to wake up. I was a high performing binge drinker, right? And but it ultimately it's not good. It wasn't good for me ever. And scripture says, like, be sober minded. Yeah. So like
I think it's wise to acknowledge your weaknesses. We're all born with a propensity to sin in different areas, and so it's wise to acknowledge it. But I just don't like identifying. I don't think it's healthy to identify with a sin, because you can be redeemed.
Absolutely. And but the first step being redeemed. You're powerless to a substance, right? I was like, powerlessness is weakness to me. Yeah. And so that took a bit of acceptance, right? As well, I am, if I do drink, there's a pretty high chance that it's going to end in a unhealthy thing. Sure. So to me, it was like, okay, I accept that now. And then a true belief in a power greater than yourself was like, oh, is that power that Erica's been talking about? And so I got so curious about this, because, and then the third being to surrender your life over to give your life over to that power. And to me, it connected so many dots, and now it's connected to make my walk in faith concrete of surrendering.
What was the point that you made the decision, like that you came to this you talk about coming to this recognition of where you were, but when did you decide, like, I mean, you're living outside of your home right now, you're separated from America, and you decide, okay, I need to stop, take a knee, and reconcile some mistakes in my life.
I think when the cops kicking in the hotel door and putting me in handcuffs was one of the first times, but a year later, after the Radisson, I had moved out, obviously that whole year pretty much, and it's a bit of a humbling experience, right? And it's one of those things where, I've been arrested 3 times since 2016. And that time, I'm not going to get into the details, but it not that I don't want to. It's just I don't want to take away from some of the things that I want to get to in this talk we're having. But just struggling, right? And then now it's my cup is just like I was spewing out, right? I'm overwhelmed by everything but I can still perform really well, like at my work. Well, that affected my ability to, so I had to go and do some intensive inpatient dual diagnosis therapy. They took my shoelaces, they took my belt, doors locked behind me, and I was like, I viewed it as punishment.
Yeah, how
but
did I get here?
It did allow me, but it did allow me to get some clarity on hey, I want to try this again, and Erica gave me that opportunity. And then, we got back together, but I went back to operating, and went back to drinking. So I was a dry drunk for 6 months after that, abstaining from alcohol because I realized that I can't work on all these other things I need to work on. But ultimately I was doing it for everybody else because I wanted to continue to operate.
Yeah. So
I did. And then that just crept back in my life, and I'm like, I'm in control, guys. I got this, And I was a high performer, so I was a value-added member of a team, and then they were, grooming me to become a leader, and so they definitely did a lot for me to try to salvage my career. I could have got kicked out of the Army several times over for those 3 incidents. And I'm forever grateful for them not, ruining my military career. But I kept operating after that. And, that led me to, eventually moving back out. Hey, we're done. It was mutual this time, right? We're done. But I got my neck fused in 2020. That's when I moved back out. Now I'm on pain meds. COVID. They just keep prescribing pain meds to me. I didn't see a doctor for a year in person. And, man, that's when things got really, really dark for me in 21. And, that's when I overdosed on, what I thought was cocaine, but it was fentanyl. And that's the time. That was November 20th or 21st, the day after, on the anniversary of the Radisson. In 21 is when I saw myself for the first time from outside of my body, and I was disgusted with what I saw. I couldn't hide from it. I couldn't rationalize it. I was disgusted with, and I can still see it. And I believe that to be this spiritual awakening of God saying, "Hey man, this is it, dude."
What was the circumstances for you to see yourself like that?
But I don't know, man. It was like, obviously I'm passing out from fentanyl. I don't remember that, but somehow I remember like kind of floating and then seeing like this kind of dual perspective of like seeing me floating and seeing me looking back. And then they Narcaned me, and it was like that, it just came ripping back together. Like it was like this very violent, like, and yeah.
Have you ever heard of John Burke or read his book?
Imagine the near-death experiences.
Yeah.
It could have been something. It could have been, something like that too. I ultimately, I believe it was God, right?
Yeah.
Saying it was my mistake and selfishness, but I believe it was an opportunity for me to make this. I say make it right, but to be better.
Yeah. To
be a better man, to be a better husband, to be a better father, leader in our communities, a positive male role model. That's what I want to be. If I want to be something for my wife and children and our community, like it's that.
Yeah.
So I've been blessed with this opportunity, and my marriage has been able to be redeemed because of that, and her strength.
Yeah.
Erica's strength, man, because
But how'd you get there? Like, I got to know personally. I'm sure everybody else wants to know, but I have to know. Like, you're in this moment. Like, is there a decision where you sit her down and say, "Hey, I want to come back home.
Well,
like, we need to fix this." Like,
I had been talking to her for a few months of like, we were kind of dating from a distance. I was in Texas doing internships that last 6 months, and that's when I experienced cocaine for the first time. And I was off pain meds, and I wasn't going to drink.
the kids are with her.
Yeah. She's got the kids, and well, my oldest daughter actually came down, and that's one of the most like painful parts of this is like she had to see that happen, and I'll never. It's a mistake that it's something that I'm always going to be very sensitive of, my tone, just the presence, the ministry of presence piece of this, and just the impact, the trauma that selfishness in our own actions can have on our family and everyone that we experience.
Yeah.
But that moment, I was moving back in. I was going to move back in, and I was like, oh, this is going to help me finish the drive. And sat in a gas station parking lot, went inside the bathroom, and came back out, and it hit me like instantly, So, it's one of these things where, Erica has always taken care of me, and it's my turn to take care of her. And it's something that I'm doing now, and we're doing it together. It's not like it's like we're leading together, and I'll never say behind every strong woman, man is a strong woman, beside a strong man is a stronger woman, as a couple, as a union. And regardless of like what we've talked about, like, she's even said this, like, well, we need a new date. We need like a new, hey, this is our new marriage. And I'm like, I agree. But it's what God says about our marriage. Even though I didn't understand and respect that covenant, I do now. So that's why I say we've been married for 20 years. January 18th was 20 years. But I mean, that started my journey in AA after that. And then that led me to God. But I didn't surrender to Jesus until almost a year after I got sober. But really, some of the treatment that I know Sean Ryan has experienced and talked about, and Marcus Capone, and through Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions in SOC-F, I went and did the SOC-F trifecta treatment. So I was the first cohort of four special operator veterans. We went out and did 8 weeks or 7 weeks of brain magnetic resonation therapy out in California. And then there was a hormonal replacement side. So it was 3 modalities of treatment. So the MERT with the hormonal replacement stuff, and then Ibogaine and 5-MeO.
Yeah, Ibogaine, psychedelics.
Yeah, so it's psychedelic assisted therapy. Now we had to go to Mexico to do it, across the border, in San Diego, across the border in Rosarito Beach. And I went to the same place that Sean Ryan did with Trevor Millar, and Ambio Life Sciences is his facilities. He had been using it to treat opioid use disorder for years in Canada until they made it illegal. Now, the psychedelics, is a class 1 substance. So that means of no medical use. And because it's a class 1 substance, it's illegal to use in the United States. So that's why we had to go to Mexico to do it. Now, it's one of the only medicines, Ibogaine specifically, and I'm not an advocate for psychedelics, but I am for Ibogaine. I don't really, I don't I was being sober. I was very, very cautious of why am I going to go take this mind altering substance?
Right.
But then witnessing, some of the impact that it was having on people that I respect, it gave me a little bit of hope. But I was scared. Am I letting this spiritual darkness? Well, I hadn't surrendered yet. Yeah, that's right. The first time I did it, I came back and then surrendered to Jesus Christ from that first experience.
I've been torn. So with Ibogaine, I've talked to Sean I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I won't mention the names of the privacy of people that have done it. But my first reaction to it, and was immediately like from a spiritual sense, I'm like, this is tapping into
like spiritual darkness.
Us seeing a spiritual realm that we should never see. And then secondly, I'm like, well, does it make you feel better? Well, alcohol does too, but that doesn't mean we should be, drink ourselves. So I had this really like harsh reaction to it. And then but I can't deny some of the individuals I met that have had really good experiences. Sean, for one of them, I have another friend that most people would know their name, that they was like, tried everything for alcohol and then went down and did that and hadn't touched a drop since. I don't understand microdosing. So I've kind of on the fence now to where I don't want to bash it anymore, because it's I know it's helped a lot of people, but I certainly don't know enough about it to advocate for it, so I never advocate for it. But to me, it's I'm still like, for me personally, I don't think I'd try it because of the fact that I feel like with the anxiety and panic, I'm like, man, that would be like so scary to do.
Yeah. It was the most scared I've ever been in my life.
Yeah,
I'll say that. But I agree with you, man. I was very skeptical of it. I was very curious about wanting to surrender to Jesus, but still didn't have the confidence to do it. So I believe I've done it twice. And, the first time was right after I filmed the Sean Ryan interview. I went to California shortly after that. But there was a noticeable difference of when I came home, of this kind of like just chilled out, kind of peaceful Kyle at home.
What's the claim that it?
So
that
it does something with the I call it the great interrupter.
Okay.
Like, to me, it's you can administer it safely with someone that's in a heroin withdrawal. So it does something with those dopamine receptors, or and serotonin, where it basically cleans all that up and allows it to kind of regulate in a normal way for a period of time. So you have to do something with that space of it. They call it neuro-Ibogaine. It's still in your system for 2 months after, right? So and it's not a psychedelic in a way that you hallucinate. Like, if you're gonna have you'll have visuals if you're gonna have that, and a lot of people talk about this kind of film strip, and for me it was like these scenes were kind of flashing in front of my face, but they were scenes of my life. They weren't just like random things, and they're going so fast and you're trying to make sense of them. So it's a longer duration experience. You're hooked up on heart rate monitors. There's a medical staff. Like,
yeah. My initial interpretation was like, we're going in a tent somewhere, and
no,
but it's
so
like
there is a
medical
ceremonial aspect to it that I'm not like a big advocate of or for. It's from the region of Gabon in Africa. So it's a root, Iboga root. But ceremonially, they've been using it to settle disputes in the tribes, and like, dealing with a miscarriage, just community. They come together as community, as a tribe, and they do a ceremony. So they take aspects of that, but I really love, and like, so the music and some of that stuff, it's a bit much, man, but I will say
it is a medical environment, though.
It
right?
is, yeah. There's medical staff that are watching you the whole time, because it's not for everybody either. You have to have a healthy EKG, and they have to assess all the things. But I will say that that first experience allowed me to come off of all the prescription meds I was on. So they had max dosed me on all the different antidepressants and then sleep meds and then they'd augment it with another thing so it allowed me to come off of all that stuff. But then, 6 months later, of 6 months of not having to take any of those prescription meds after the first experience, I started to like struggle. And because it gives you this space to make changes in your life, but you got to make them. So I kind of went back to doing the same things as far as Blu Bearing and this and that. But I had this space of like, that's the point when I came back where I looked at Erica and I said, hey, either we're going to do this Blu Bearing thing together or I'm just going to stop it. Because I was running around after Uvalde earlier that year, I was running around just giving it away, losing money, getting in debt, and then gone traveling. So that allowed me to come back and look at her and have these conversations about either we're going to try to do this together or I'm going to stop this company. And we decided and agreed to do it together, and we have ever since. But I came back 6 months later and did it again. But in between, I had also surrendered to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. So when I went back the second time, I took Jesus into that experience with me. So the first time I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. It was just darkness. And I believe there's an element of like the brain meds I was on, blunting a bit of the efficacy of Ibogaine. But the second time, 6 months of being off everything, man, I saw everything I needed to see. And more specifically, one of the most shameful things I've ever done. Now the scene is I'm seeing all this and the devil's right there with me. And we looked like I'm spectating this, right? Like from a theater kind of screen. And we looked like we were best friends. And I'm trying to, yell and tell myself that he's going to trick you. He's gonna, all these things. And then he starts hurting me, the devil, cutting me. And I was panicking, like physically I was panicking. And then I remembered to do some breath work. And then I remembered to pray. And I prayed to Jesus in a way like Peter did in the water. And he came and he did a hostage rescue on me, right? Someone saved me. Someone rescued me. Someone saved me. And we all need saving. But there is only one Savior. And, this is something that, like, taking it back to childhood, like I had this Savior complex inside of me because 16 years old, I did my first hostage rescue, kicking in a crack house door, tuning some dudes up and throwing my sister on my shoulder. And, I just continued to learn how to, I thought that's who I was. Like, that's all I'm here for, right? Is to put my life at risk to save others. I couldn't save anybody. You can rescue just about anybody in the right conditions. And there are phenomenal teams, and I've been a part of that, and I've done it, but saving, we all need saving. And there's only one Savior.
Yeah. And
that if there was a seed of doubt in my faith in God, it was removed after that second Ibogaine journey. And the thing is, there's no like maintenance to it. I don't have to do it again. There's no like once a month I got to go do this. Once a year I got to go. No, I don't. I have everything I need in my life, and Ibogaine help me obtain that or believe that and let go. But it was scary. It was pretty scary. But I mean, it saved my life in a way. It helped me get to a point of this, everything I wanted to be true as having surrendered to Jesus, a few months before that second experience, I have put into practice. I have been consistent with, and I started our fellowship Zoom through Blu Bearing's Patreon almost a month after I got back from that. And we've been doing it for 2 years.
That's
every Friday night.
This was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, every Friday night, 8:30 Eastern, we get together and I lead it. And now the team, Blake and Steven, we kind of rotate through it. But there'll be 45 people all across the country every Friday night, and we get into a devotional.
So clearly we know Blu Bearing is a training group for for firearms and tactics, and but you made it your ministry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean,
I didn't. I listened, but as the CEO and founder, like I'm in charge of the brand,
right?
And maybe it started as a way to Uvalde. I'm just going. I can share these things that are going to help increase your lethality, your survivability, all these things. But man, what an opportunity to witness to others in our own ways. Like think of the, as Paul says, with these, the hope, faith, and love are the three that remain. Right. That just means those are never going away. The other ones we have to unlock, the unique gifts that God's given us. And I believe that this ability to minister to others, discipleship, right? Mm-hmm. In front of with body armor on, right? Shooting, moving, and communicating.
Well, your experience and I don't your occupations, your experience with the level you're at. I mean, those things allow you to be in front of a different group of people than a pastor ever will be.
Yeah,
you have a unique platform, and that creates opportunity in ministry. I mean, I've seen it in my own life, like I've tried to leverage the audiences to get to be in front of, whether it's go and speak at a military unit or a corporate event or a church or a jiu-jitsu seminar. Everywhere I go, people are going to know the testimony of Jesus in my life. It's just the different things that God's allowed me to do in my life before I was a believer. Those things still carry over as a platform.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%, man. And it's the peace that brings in. So being on solid footing and having a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Being on solid footing you have to check in, right? Checking in. We sat and prayed in the car before we came in here as a team. And you mentioned like how we get these opportunities that are different from a church ministry. Well, our third instructor that we hired this year works full-time in ministry, and his father is the lead pastor of it. So he gets he gets to see, and we get to have conversations with his father about how Blu Bearing is a ministry. So it's not taking away from his church obligations as the director of discipleship. He's only adding two.
Ministry,
he's adding two. So man, I love it, but it's that's the work that's worth doing.
Well, I can't think of a better place. Look, I mean, you guys are I mean, right now you guys are just training the county we're in right now. You guys are just training a SWAT team, and I know some of those guys. Those guys need to hear truth. They need to hear that truth of someone who's been in the trenches themselves and done it, and they'll listen. But a lot of those guys are not going to go this Sunday morning to church. This upcoming Sunday to church. Some of them will, but some of them won't. And so maybe the first time they can ever hear truth is from you guys.
Yeah.
Why are you teaching them how to
That's the beauty of it. That's the unique gifts that God's given me and this team that he's placed these men in my life. And Erica is the anchor of all of this that we do at Blu Bearing. But like, even in wrapping up, yesterday, the training, man, guys were sharing things with each other that they hadn't shared because of how we deliver this a message. It's not us talking at you. It's God speaking through us to you, and it's also meeting people where they are, right? So respecting that journey that led me to this, and when the opportunities to talk about, because to truly embody being a protector. So the protector mindset is learning to love yourself, right? In a way that, like, to care for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And then the love that you can receive, and give, is actual love. It's not codependency. It's not something different. And to protect your mind, what you're consuming, the people you interact with, right? So, and diet, right, all those things, like mind, body, and spirit, like protecting that. And now I'm ready to deal with the unknown, to be challenged, and I will, and it's but I know that surviving not just that crisis, but surviving that with my career intact, with everything that I care about still with me. Because if we just keep going, and we're going to leave this wake of things that we think is unconditional love,
Right.
but we'll lose it if we don't nurture it. And that is our families. And that's the most important thing that I've been given in my life is my family. My wife, my children, and then everyone else. As far as that priority of relationships, but I don't worship my wife. Right. I don't worship my children.
Yeah, you've spoken a lot about this, and to bring some clarity of it, I think ultimately what you're saying is, the perspective of where everything has its place, and when things are in outside of the rightful place, it causes disruption in our lives, and when it comes to our walk, and God needs to be above all, and our worship of God should not come second to worshiping jobs or nations or even spouses.
It's idolatry.
Idolatry, right?
Yeah.
And then the wife should come second, even before our children. Which, as parents who are loved, that's hard, right? Because as parents, we love our children. A lot of days we don't even like our spouse, but we are crazy about our children. But it's very important.
But you get to do it together.
Yeah.
You get to do it together,
and they get to see it.
Yeah.
They get to see it.
Man, that's the part that still kind of eats me up, is like what my children had to witness and what a good relationship is.
Yeah.
Because I could sit there and blame my childhood of like how my mom and dad interacted. But the fact is like, I've been given the opportunity to show them what a good man is. And that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And that's how our legacy is, that, right? The seeds that we're planting in them, we may never even see the fruit of that. Like they're children's children. They're children's children's children. Your legacy. It's not a title that you obtain. It's not an award you get. It's them. Yeah. And I've raised my son as my own. He since he was 4. I've been, when Eric and I got married, he was 4 years old. He's 24 years old, man. I'm so proud of him. I work with him full time now. He produces our podcast. Yeah. So, because there's this like Starship Commander, everybody's like, who's that? It's the producer, which is my son.
Makes it happen behind the scenes.
He's going to hate me for that right now because he wanted this whole like Mystique thing and whatever. But, man, I just love it, man. Like what a blessing, dude. Like the other thing is like, success, like we have to define it, or else our priorities are going to always get misaligned. If we can't, and financially, like you need to be able to eat, you need to be able to have shelter, live comfortably, right? If you live in a good life, but ultimately, if God wills me to be financially wealthy, then okay. If He doesn't, then okay. And that's where, what do you worship? Right. If you think about blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom of heaven. Like poor in spirit, we think poor spirited. Yeah. Which is not the case. Being poor in spirit is to be spiritually bankrupt, to where you have to surrender that over to God to fill that for you. And man, it's just it's what you worship. If you think about the rich young ruler, right? Or the rich young man, a young rich ruler, example that Jesus gave of, he came running to him. This is after the Sermon on the Mount. He came running to him and on his knees, like, teacher, like, what do I need to do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And he told him, be poor in spirit. And he's like, well, and he gave an example of you've been following the 10 Commandments. You know what they are. He gave some examples. And he's like, I have since childhood. I have adhered to all the commandments. And Jesus looked at him and said, well, here's one for you. Go home, sell all your possessions, give it to the poor, and follow me. And the rich young ruler turns with a sad face and walks away. Yeah. Because what is he worshiping? Yeah. Yeah. And that's the first commandment. Yeah. Like, worship nothing other than God. And if we're worshiping our possessions or our titles, it's going to go away.
I don't want to end without asking you this, because I know it's a super important part of your life and the way you're living right now, and it's very important to me, is discipleship. What is discipleship to you?
I think it's what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the conversations we're having right now. I think it's getting ourselves outside of ourselves. Of course, we've been talking about me a bit, but I'm not going to tell you anything that I haven't experienced.
Right.
I'm not going to make things up. I'm going to share as Jesus did. He spoke in parables. I'm going to share stories, right, to help you connect in a way. But it's not, and those are the seeds that we plant, but that's the Holy Spirit to encounter, but we plant those seeds, and those are the treasures that we build up in heaven, is all the seeds that we plant. So that is discipleship is the already and the not yet, the in-between time.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're doing. If we're being intentional about it, like that's our calling, that's our mission. And the gifts that I've been given are to be able to teach, firearms and tactics, because it's inherently dangerous. So I'm able to, encourage people, even if they're not religious, to seek something bigger than you. But as a Christian, we're gonna pray. But if you have an issue with that, just take this moment to meditate, to reflect, to be present, to be where your feet are, because this is dangerous. So I know we all have, maybe we didn't sleep good, maybe we got some stuff going on at home, but we're here to train. So let's be where our feet are. So we're going to take this moment to pray. And we do that in every course.
What would you say to people that would say, like, hey, you guys are running a gun company, you're doing a tactics company, why do you have to bring religion? It's bad for business. Like,
yeah.
I mean, because you will lose opportunities,
yep,
like, because of it.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I say that's okay. That's why Jesus sent them out in twos, man.
Mm-hmm. 2
by 2. Because when you encounter the town that you get spit on or stones
mm-hmm.
thrown at you, that you have each other to lean in towards one another and to move to the next town.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Like, this isn't about like how many people we've trained or, is Blu Bearing the best training company in the world, but we're the best training ministry out there.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And we're just going to keep growing.
Yeah.
Because I have confidence in what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So like individual ego is the enemy on a team or in life, but a collective, like being proud of your team, I think is extremely healthy.
Yeah. I love that you're standing on a principle, because same with me in speaking. I do a lot of corporate speaking events, and companies reach out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to come to Exxon and give a sermon,
mm-hmm.
but if you want to hear my story, if you want to hear principles on leadership, if you want to hear about networking and relationships, you're going to hear about my biblical worldview and my faith in Jesus, because all those things, if you want to hear from me, that's where my perspective comes from. So you're going to hear those things, and sometimes they say no, and that's fine.
I mean, that's happened to me. Even I spoke a little bit last year, quite a bit last year, to start to mm-hmm. do that, to practice that, because you can't just say, just like with teaching, instructing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I could have been the best operator, but am I a good teacher or not? I have to practice that. Just like with speaking, public speaking, I had to practice, and I have to continue to practice it if I'm going to do it. But I've actually done a corporate thing, predominantly law enforcement and some church stuff, right? As far as my speaking, military. But it's really heavy. And I tell people, like, if I'm going to come do this, just like you, like I'm going to talk about God. I'm going to talk about my walk with Jesus. I'm going to talk about, I will be respectful with certain places about like the psychedelic stuff. I may not even bring it up. Because I've done so much other types of treatment. My whole point is the resiliency piece of resilient leadership. And if you think about leadership, period, like what's one word that you would use to describe leadership in your own?
For me, it's responsibility. Leadership is responsibility.
And it is. And for me, it's caring.
It's what?
It's caring.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I care.
Yeah.
I care about people. I care about leading by example.
Yeah.
Regardless of times where I wasn't, I care. And that's the whole point of doing these leadership talks. And if we can talk about the person that cared about us more than anyone else and give that
Jesus.
glory where it's due. That's what my point is. Like
Yeah.
that's, and people are going to say, hey, no thanks, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm also, we're not knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Like we're not like,
exactly.
hey, you know, can we come?
Yeah.
Like do this? It's people are coming to us, and that's the blessing of the Sean Ryan interview that I did and that Blake did with him more recently.
Yeah.
You know, and thank you for that, Sean. But my whole point is that the branding, right? Going back to the like being in charge of the CEO, right? Chief Everything Officer. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but it's like it's getting easier, it's getting better, building the right team together and listening to counsel, seeking counsel.
You talked about leadership being caring. I love that. I love that. If you pick one word, that's powerful.
Yeah.
For me, when I say responsibility, I think because many leaders like love being in charge, right? But to me, it's leadership is taking responsibility for successes and failures, and ultimately, like it's servant leadership.
Yeah.
Servant leadership is acceptance, responsibility, which I go back to kind of like you go back to Jesus caring. I go back to no one modeled servant leadership like Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, and
he's
that's
completely
so-
sacrificial leadership.
So that's like, you know, the branding, so how we're branding, it's drawing the right people there, you know, and it's, I think getting that message out up front, there's no hidden layers
Yeah,
to
you're not
this. It's
surprising
like,
anybody, right?
it's, hey man, you know what you're kind of getting out of this.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't realize the extent of it, but
Yeah.
I think that's just being honest with yourself, and I'm not going to try to sell something that I don't have, or, you know, so it's just, I think being very clear with how we brand, you know, and it's not like you have to be a Christian to train with me,
Sure.
but that is how I live my life.
Right.
So if I'm going to live my life that way, but then not honor that in my profession, then what am I doing?
Right.
You know, so it's not like I walk around. It's not a sermon every.
Not being obnoxious, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
But caring though, I think that is the most important. That lowers people's guards a bit, and then it allows them to be a bit curious about the tactics,
Yeah.
and then about how I say like, hey man, like I don't stay in hotels by myself. Anytime we travel, we stay together. We're here to train. We're not going out and doing this and doing that. Like there's a measure of accountability that we have in our lives and that we live, that we share with others when we're training, and we perform. We get in there with them and do it. And if I can't do this and perform on demand under stress, and a part-timer, if that's stress, or paper targets, if that's stressful, I tell people, I'm like, don't let paper targets defeat you. They're here for your training use, man. You just have to know how to maximize them, whether it's a threat ID or shot placement. You have to understand like what you're doing and how you're isolating, you know, the different fundamentals of marksmanship. So, man, I love teaching that stuff.
Yeah.
But we do it in the ways that we've been shown, and that's the biggest difference between all the instructors, right? All the teams of training companies in this. I didn't create a single tactic or technique that I teach. I am sharing things that I've been shown, and I've developed the ability, the curriculums, the delivery of them, my experience practicing them and operationally using those tactics and techniques. That's what makes us all different. If a training company thinks they invented a tactic or technique, they're full of crap, man. So like,
Yeah.
there's snake oil salesmen out there too. So like I've developed certain shooting drills and this and that, and I've borrowed some from others, and I give credit where credit's due. I always do. If I was experienced something from you, right? So if we went out and shot, and I'm like, oh, I like that drill, hey, I'm going to use it. And they're like, hey, this is a drill that Chad showed me, and you know, that's what this is, man. Like I am not like this end all be all answer to all operational questions. But I've experienced a lot, and that's all I can, you know, the collective experience of our team. That's what we share. You know, we're not there to teach you how to do your job. Like we're there to show you some basic principles and push you and to challenge you. And then we pressure test it with people if we're doing scenario-based training, which is a majority of what we do.
Let's end on that. What can people out there listening where can they learn about the company?
Yeah.
Who are the clientele? Like who could benefit from the company?
Yeah, so we have open enrollments, which is 21 and up, American citizens only, not a felon, all those things. We do background checks. And those are on the website at blubearing.com. It's spelled BLU, bearing.com.
We'll put it in the show notes below too.
Yeah. And then those are all, full up, but I encourage you to just email, do an inquiry and just send an email if you're interested, if there's a date that you want to get into, because there's always one or two people that have to reschedule. So like this weekend, there's a course tomorrow and Sunday. I guarantee someone's gonna be like, hey, can I reschedule? You got 1 year to reschedule if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So there's that course, you can do, we do, this is a live fire rifle pistol 2-day course. We do, our Protector Mindset 101s, which is our active shooter response course. It'll be mixed in that case. And then, we do some structure clearance course, so more team-based clearance as well. And then the website's the best place to find out all the information.
Yeah, it's great. I love the website layout.
Yeah.
I was digging in on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Patreon. So obviously I know you have a Patreon, and so does Blu Bearing. That's actually how we were able to do things like payroll and all those scary things of growing a company. But it's not just a money grab. There's a paywall to it, but there's only one tier. But if you joined, you get access to everything we've ever posted, and there's training content, whether it's, firearms or tactics, stuff, our bonus episodes. So we have a podcast. That's the Black and Blue podcast, spelled BLK and BLU. And that's Blake and I. And there's 2 bonus episodes that you can only see every month, if you're a Patreon member. And then our fellowship through that as well. So
right on.
Every Friday night. Yeah. So subscribe to the newsletter as well, but get to that from the website. Yeah.
Parting words on any lessons of resiliency for the audience.
You're not alone. Like I think, regardless of where you are, be present and look up. Look up to our Creator to help guide your life, and then look out for the men or women that if you are a woman, but if you're a man, other men, to help you in this walk, right? Stay on this path with a bearing. Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, that's probably the most quiet I've ever been on a podcast.
Now I'm a talker, dude.
I'm just sitting there listening to you, man. I'm like
I'm
absorbing everything you're saying, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
And super proud of what you guys are doing. And,
Thank you.
And to get to know you, man. I'm looking forward to more.
Absolutely.
More.
Yeah.
Well, if you wasn't already aware, we have the best gifts for all the for any podcast, in my opinion. Smith & Wesson, Vortex, Gators, BioPro, BioAccelerator, Ally Wealth Management are all of our sponsors. So you will get your choice of a Smith & Wesson firearm. We'll let you pick. And that's right there is my equalizer. That's my personal EDC. We'll let you pick a Vortex optic, some Gators eyewear, and we're going to hook you up with BioPro to put some more meat on you.
What's the BioPro?
So BioPro is there's a day and nighttime formula, and it's a non-synthetic growth hormone supplement.
Oh, really?
So it'll help your body produce its own natural growth hormone.
Yeah.
It comes from like the velvet of deer antlers. Really, just old Eastern medicine, and Dustin, did an awesome job of putting it as highest potency quality and putting some really cool packaging together.
Well, I appreciate that.
But it's in the UFC. It's in the UFC gyms now. The USADA approved. It's really clean. Man, everybody, I love it. I've never promoted anything I don't use. I love it, but everybody that we've had on that actually use it like falls in love with it. So I just had.
I recently got connected with CorMed in Sydney. Are you familiar with CorMed Group?
I feel like I am. Is that Colton's?
Yes, it's Colton.
Yeah.
Colton works for Sydney. And so CorMed, he started CorMed, and they do, hormonal replacement therapy. But man, I've been a part of a couple, other things I won't mention, but as far as in that realm.
Yeah.
But man, just the quality of protocol, like how they developed that protocol. I feel so much better, and it's only been 2 weeks since I started with them.
Yeah, BioPro's been like phenomenal for me. Hormone replacement. I haven't done core med yet. Colton's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to Fountain Life right now, going through a full diagnostics of my body, figure out where it's at, what I need to do. But every year I'm going down the bioaccelerator in Colombia and getting around the stem cells, and of everything, that's probably been the most like dramatic change.
Yeah.
I mean, the inflammation's gone, things are healed. I feel stronger.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty amazing. But and then for my sleep, man, BioPro, the nighttime one, I was like 4 hours of sleep a night. And when I got on BioPro, I think a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, 9 hours a night. So
Yeah.
I'm sleeping like really
That's
good.
that's been a big change for me too. Is like I used to struggle to fall asleep, but now I don't. I think part of that's just like being at peace. Like even when I visualize a bit as I'm laying there. It's kind of like meditation, and then as soon as my mind wanders in that visualization, I connect it to a prayer. So I'm like, oh, where am I going? And then I just bring it right back into a prayer, and that's how I try to end my night.
That's a good strategy. I might need to.
It works, man, because we spin like, oh, what did I not do? I messed that up. And then we're like, oh, I got all these things. And then we're not resting.
Yeah.
And that compounds, so no, I'm definitely excited. And thank you very much for the
Get you
gifts.
a Mighty Oak swag bag as well with a bunch of Mighty Oak stuff somewhere around here. And then my new book, Solid Horizons. It's my first fiction book.
Really?
So it released, this will be post-dated interview, but as we sit here, it released on Tuesday, and it's doing really well.
Congratulations, man. Yeah. I look forward to reading it. I look forward to getting to know you more too, man. And thank you for this opportunity, just to have this conversation with your audience. And like I said, I look forward to working together more in the future too.
Man, same. Yeah. I want to get on the range with you.
Let's go.
So. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. And if you have not already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have not done so as well, go to our Patreon and join. We need your support to keep this channel going. And we have so much amazing content coming on our Patreon. We're adding more every week. And so stay tuned for some more updates. And God bless you, and stay resilient. Hey, what's up, Resilient family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind the scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.